So I'm gonna put this out there to that one particular individual that may have had something going 20 plus years ago, when that all that time was invested in you, and when you rose to the occasion and you got up on the pay scale and things were looking good for you, and you thought the grass was going to be greener on the other side, you don't remember who was steering that vehicle that got you to the top. And we're not going to bring religion in it. We're going to make it individuals. You know, when that man helped you with those kids, when that man helped you see a better way, when that man helped you get out of a 15-year job at $7 an hour, and now you're making big bucks at a major manufacturing place. And, you know, you rose. And you got to the point you realized you didn't need that man no more. And you did everything within your power to tear that man down. You even shamed his name. You talked about him. You talked about his shortcomings. All of a sudden, that man was no good to you. But that man was there with you the whole time as you gradually rose. You got to that point to where you and that man can finally breathe a sigh of relief, because now you can only go up. You decided you want to jump ship. You decided you want to just get out there and just share the cookie with any and everybody. Not only did you want to share the cookie, you wanted to come home to that man and brag about it. You know, all these things. You know, you said hurtful things, you know, because you knew you was dealing with a nice guy, but you knew you was also dealing with a nice guy that had a short temper. So you did all these things. You tried to cut him. You tried to cut him down. And to be honest, you know, you may have really hurt that man. You, after all the years that he invested in you and those kids that may have been ungrateful, you did your best to try to destroy that man. Now you fast forward some 25 plus years later, you know, you're still placing phone calls to that man. You're still trying to reminisce on things with that man. You're still trying to convince him that y'all will be good together, but you don't realize something. You had it good. You had it just that good. But you're not the only one. There are so many ladies out there that went through the same thing. No, you don't need a man. But when you're with that man, and once you all decide to become one and you're growing together, and all of a sudden you decide you forgot about him. And during the whole time you was flipping those pages in the good book, you trying to throw scriptures at this guy. You're talking about what he's not doing right, what his man needs to be, all along that you were throwing scriptures at him, but you were the one in disguise. So see, that's where it got you. And now here you are, let's just say some 30 years later, you basically on your knees. There's no way in you know where that man should allow you back in his life, you know, because he put up with a lot. But you didn't realize that man was giving you more than he was giving of himself. And he put up with so much. He gave you so much of him. And what did you give him in return? You gave him grief. You really did. You gave that man some grief towards the end. But that man had the true strength. You know, we all been hurt, but some of the low down, deceitful, dirty things that you did to that man, you know, it was uncalled for. You know, you may have begged for forgiveness. You may have finally found your way and got right with who you believe in, but that man don't believe in you. So with that being said, why don't you do yourself a favor and stop humiliating yourself and stop begging that man to come back into your life? The one man that you had in your life that took things to the next level. You know, just think about that for a minute. You know, and that man is happy. That man is content. That man has a great life. Do you think that man will open that door and let that devil come back through one more time? Because there was a lot of smoke and mirror. See, you came in and there was so much that man didn't see because you hid it so well from him. You know, but the layers started coming peeled back. Things are starting to happen. And you just lived those 12, 13, 15, 14, 15 years a complete lie. You know, watching how you came from that little space, that small town, and watch how far you had gone. And I'm pretty sure that you have spent many of nights laying there thinking, what if? If only I hadn't thought to do this. I don't know who put those ideas in your head. Yeah, I do know. Matter of fact, but we're not throwing names out here. I know who put the ideas in your head. But I guarantee you are no longer in contact with that person that did nothing but helped you destroy your own life. With the person that gave you love. You know, you played yourself. Now, if you really think about it, here you are so many years later, you realize you played yourself. You know, you're getting fired from Fortune 500 companies for some frivolous acts, things of that nature, you know, and then you got the audacity to call that man back with that little peaceful voice, thinking that was going to work the second time around because he actually thought that was you in the beginning. He saw through it. It started to come out. You know, you went off your medicine a couple of times, you know, and I'm just saying that, I don't mean it, you know, literally, but yeah, you went off your medication. And then here you are with your memory lane of holidays to where you feeling lonely and you reaching out to that man, asking him, do he remember the time? Yeah, he remembered. He remembered how deceitful you was. He remember how backstabbing you were. You know, he remembered the lies you put out. He remembered how you tried to turn everybody against him. That man remembers that. He may actually have a conversation with you because now when a man has that conversation with you, he is feeling so good because he know you're groveling. He know you're on your knees. He know you're in need. And he's not going to do anything to help you out this time. You know, you got to figure it out for yourself. You know, you probably went in and out of a lot of relationships, in and out of a lot of marriages, trying to jump on the next train smoking. And then you finally found a good gravy train and you screw it up. But you want that man to come back into your life thinking it can be better. You even tried to use the kids in the situation. Well, the kids are grown. It'll just be me and you. No, don't tell that man that lie. Because your life has changed. You know, now there's a bunch of grandkids involved in your life. So do you really think that man is finna do a reenactment of what happened between you and yours the first time? I'm hoping there's no man in his right mind that would be crazy enough to do that kind of foolishness. And I'm just voicing this out here. And I'm not saying all women are bad. I'm just making a point. You know, you did these things. And in the process of doing these things, if you had young daughters, they're seeing your actions and they're learning the things that you're doing. And now they're grown. And now they're doing the same old stuff. But now that you found yourself beyond 60 years old, yeah, you can find somebody. You've even admitted to that man that you tried. You just couldn't find somebody that treated you as good as he did. Mind you, it wasn't even about the money, but the man treated you good. The man was very accepting of a lot of things. But it just still wasn't good enough for you. You know, you started climbing that corporate ladder, but you forgot you had a co-pilot the whole time that did nothing but supported you. You know, the whole ride, the whole climb. And then when you got to that point, what did you do? You snatched the rug off from under him, or at least you thought you did. And yes, you probably did hurt that man. Yes, during that moment of your deceitfulness and your hatred and watching your pretty brown eyes become stone cold black. Yeah. And there's plenty of nights I know you later thinking about it. Yes, you think about that man. You think about what you had. You think about it now because you're sitting there and you're in your enclosed space And nobody wants you. You bragged about it. You know, you talked about it. You bragged about it. I can count on 5 hands, if I had 5, how many times a woman would sit here and try to belittle a man and saying things, hateful things to a man, that she sat there and lied in the church that she was raised in on her wedding day with those vows. And the sad part about it, you had that man standing there next to you and he was clueless to the fact that you in there telling a bald-faced lie, and the congregation and everybody that was in that wedding party on your side of the family knew it. So my question is, when a woman does something like that, a person does something like that, on your way to hell, do you have the bus circle back around and pick up the rest of them that was in cahoots with you? The same ones that every time you call that man, oh, he'll gladly pick up the phone call. He's like, oh, let me see what she about. She's about to beg for something. You know, that man's ego is so big that he just eats it up because he's over you. You were nothing but a bad cold to that man. That's all you were. You was a nightmare to him. You know, and it's the deceitful type like you that make men stronger. It's not gonna make a man go and start hating all the other women that's gonna be in and out his life. It made him stronger because you deceived him. You deceived people in these jobs that you got, but you worked your way up. Once you got to that certain position, you should have calmed your little tail down and sat down and did exactly what you're supposed to do. Love your man, love your family, and be grateful at the position that you are now in. It got so good to you, you couldn't stand yourself. Your whole attitude had to change. You know, that man watched you go from turning pages in that good book to sit in your wine glass on top of it. And I'm not judging nobody. I'm just saying, you know, that same man watched this. That same man watched how quickly you became the evilest thing he had seen in a long time, especially when he gave his best, because that man was so confused and caught up in your bull that he couldn't see the truth. But it came out. The truth came out. And to be quite honest, some 2008, if I can do the math, some almost 30 years later, people might even ask that guy, hey, whatever happened to such and such? He's gonna laugh and say, she's still suffering. He don't mean you no harm, but guess who came out on the bright side? Guess who rose to the occasion? Guess who made it through the storm? The one that you tried to destroy. You put so much negative energy in trying to destroy somebody else that loved you, you literally destroyed yourself. That's what you did. And I don't need to put no names out there. I don't need to say who this is about, who this is for, what man, what woman. But the one that if this video makes it to that particular person, they'll know who they are. And see, your game days are over with. You know, the last conversation you had with that man, don't you remember? About what you and him could have together if you got back together? No, the only thing you and that man could have was reoccurring nightmares. You don't need to give that man no nightmares about you. Let him go on about his way. Yeah, he's gonna take a phone call because he's sitting there smiling because he see you begging and groveling. You know, and it's not a laughing matter, but on the inside, for every time you reached out to him and you were in that state, you know, you encouraging that man, his encouragement is going through the roof because it's a quick reminder of what storm he came through. And that goes for you and those others like you that was there before you that came after you. You know, you're ruining your own lives because you thought it was something, you know, that little quick, fast, in a hurry. That's exactly what it was. You had something good. A lot of people told you had something good. Even your own mom told you had something good, and you screw that up. I mean, what is that about? You get out here and you asking for these things. You're asking for that helpmate. You're asking for that person. And then when you get that person, you nut up. You don't know how to handle them. You can't deal with it. You can't deal with, a man coming home and actually being nice to you. You can't deal with a man that's not beating on you. You can't deal with that type of man. You can't deal with a man that gets up and go to work every day. You can't deal with a man that can just, you on my benefits. You and your kids, everybody, get on my medical. You couldn't deal with that. It was just so much good things happening for you. You couldn't stand it. You didn't know how to deal with it. You chose to fight your way right out of it. The things that you did, I bet you right now, that same person that did all these deceitful things, that journal that you're writing in every night, that you claim that you told him you write in every night, is full of repetitive I'm sorry's. How did I go wrong? What did I do wrong? How in the world did I get myself in this position? I bet you that's what it's full of. Because guess what? That same man that you thought you tore down, you bruised him. You didn't win the fight. You just bruised him. You made him stronger. He got up. And as soon as he got over you, only thing he said, well, okay, who's next? And then when another one come along, and if and when she decides she wants to go haywire, open the door and let her fly off. Nobody's life is worth dealing with this mental anguish, this abuse, the lies, tearing a person down. You can take it only so far. You have a man that loves you, that comes home to you, wanting to talk to you about your day. But instead, you want to nitpick and start a fight. Oh, let's not forget the many of weekends that you would take off to go gamble. You were doing so good. Life was so good for you. You had play money just to piss away. But you didn't want your man to go with you half the time. You rather go off with your family, and all these things. And that man sat back and watched. He started forming his own list. He started carefully watching your behaviors and watching what you were doing, and pretty much knew where you were going before you even said where you were going. And see, that's what somebody that's very observant does. You was doing so much foul stuff, it wasn't even worth him even talking to you about. You was sitting there making a complete fool of yourself. And you remember the time when you borrowed that man's vehicle and you said you had a work retreat? And that man said to you, borrow the car for the weekend. On the way back, stop and have it vacuumed because you shouldn't bring fleas back in that man's car. And it took you a while to figure out what that man was talking about. That man knew what was going on. He didn't even care. He just watching you just crash and burn. You crashed and you burned. You think about all those people that was in your life when you was fueling that fire, they're no longer in your life. And not only that, the funny part is your best friend. She became very close to a friend of his. And they still together. And you can't stand the fact that they still together because you screwed your situation up. Yes, he found out about that. I don't know how, but you still have so much evil and resentment built up in you that nobody wants to touch that. You're poisoned. And there are so many people out here that are like that are poisoned. And when I said I'm going to start bringing some stuff out, I'm going to start bringing some stuff out because the truth has to be told. You burned a lot of bridges. Now you're hanging on by a thread. You're calling that man and asking to see him because you're in town and all of these things. That man don't want to be bothered with you. Keep going, because there is no reason for it. And the reason why he don't want to be bothered with you, because he can't trust you. He don't trust what you liable to do, what kind of situation you might put him in to try to set him up. You know, that's what he thinks about you, because that's all he knew of you once it came out. You know, reminding him of the great times, reminding him of the good holidays, reminding him of when you did take a trip. You know, you don't need to remind that man of that, because you snatched all that away. You didn't want it. You did not want it. That's why you don't have it now. You admitted to him that you tried to replace the situation, but you couldn't replace the situation because you really realized you had somebody that loved you unconditionally until you went off the deep end. And the lie you said when that man walked out of your life, no, you left. Remember, you left that man. You went and got the U-Haul truck. You pulled up with the little birdie that was putting those evil thoughts in your head, and she helped you to move your stuff out. You did that. That man didn't get rid of you. You got rid of yourself. You know, you probably thought he was going to put on a show and beg you, baby, don't go, baby, don't go. Yeah, he did that a couple of times. But once he realized it and he stepped aside and you loaded up, now you looking around with a truck full of stuff and there was no fight. You didn't know how to act. That man left you in complete silence. Matter of fact, he left the house so you could get your stuff, so it wouldn't be any drama. Don't you remember telling that man, yeah, you better leave? Don't you remember saying that? And he turned around and said, well, just call me when you're done. Don't you remember when that man told you that? Because he knew you was not going to go down that easy. That man had to stay there. He probably would have went to jail that night, because you was going to figure out a way to make sure he get hurt behind that. You had done enough damage. You had proven yourself. You left him sitting over there in that nice house that he provided for you and yours. Nice house. You left that man to move over in the other subdivision with your girl. And remember the day that the man came over there, and he came that last time, he wanted to try one more time to make it work. And you had him waiting outside for 20 minutes outside of her home, because she opened the door and she looked your husband up and down as if he was the plague. And she finally said, well, let me go see if she wants to see you. That man waited outside 20 minutes. And you come downstairs with the big hickey on your neck that your man didn't give you. Adultery. That same thing that you preached to your man about. Big old hickey. Don't you remember? Remember that night when he gave you his wedding band back and he told you he was coming after his wife, but the damage was done, and he pointed right there to his neck because he saw that big hickey? Yes. And if you walk past that man right there, right now today, the first thing he's going to do is point to his neck. Because not only did you think it was okay to do, you wanted to wear the billboard. You wanted to throw it up in his face. But remember when you kept throwing it up, and remember how the outcome? We ain't gonna get into that because it was spicy. Let's just say all aboard. So now here you are calling that man. Now you're starting to call him from private lines. I don't know why you feel like you have to do that. You know, he's picked up. He has actually talked to you. You know, he's actually listened to you and your nonsense, trying to sweet talk, trying to convince him that y'all should meet at the casino. You mean the same casino that you didn't want to go to with your husband because you'd rather your mama ride along all the time? Remember that? It's nothing against family. It's just the fact that you never put that time into your man after the day that you and him got married. You didn't. So don't you sit there and rehash 30 years of crap and come back around and start back telling lies about you and that man, because it came back. And he didn't care to hear it, but it's funny how it came about. He just happened upon it in passing. And it's kind of weird how it is to this day, some 30 years later, you're still talking about that man like that. He's gone on with his life. He's had a whole nother life, in and out. His life is good. The only way your life is going to get better if you stop trying to hold on to something you'll never have again. And if you say you ask for forgiveness, really mean it next time and release yourself of all that pain and anguish, because you ain't getting them back. That man don't want you back. You might as well just keep going, because he knows what the deal is now. You gotten older. You're still doing that little professional patient thing. You get a job, stay off work for 6 months. You work 2, you stay off. That stuff is old now. And you probably reached the end of your rope with that. So you figured if you try to get back with him, he's still working. You can get on his insurance and you can start that all over again. Nah, won't happen. Won't happen. Because you had it so good, you don't realize how good you had it. You really don't realize that. Even when your own mama told you had it good, you didn't realize it. It's funny how these moms tell their older daughters when the mother realized the daughter has a good thing and the daughter don't want to listen to it. And she screws it up. A man that was being a provider, a man that was giving his last, a man that was going to work certain days, probably had $1 to his name, but you know what? Everything was taken care of because he knew tomorrow was going to be a better day. It just wasn't enough for you. And then you have the audacity to call that man and you want to talk to him about your kids like he really give a hoot about those bad kids. I'm just going to keep it clean. But he don't care. He don't care. Because when you was with him, ain't a doggone thing he can do to talk to him. When he couldn't say nothing to him. You had that great divide. But now you want to talk about them. He cares less. All that stuff you're trying to do right now, you really need to stop. Because you screwed up. And there's so many out there that screwed up. It's a lot of them. You really threw away something that was so good that you couldn't stand it. It's kind of like having that last egg. You want to borrow that egg. You get it out of the refrigerator and you drop it on the floor. You can't let it go. You messed up. And there are so many people out there that's going through this and they're going through these things and the anguish. And I did say, I'm going to start dropping some stuff and talk about some things. You can go through and you can put a lot of things in the air. But, I felt like tonight, just talking about that situation, the only reason is because that woman tried to contact that man this evening. She did. She tried to contact him for nothing because he didn't want to hear her mess. He don't want to hear. There's nothing that woman can say to that man that'll convince him of anything. I mean, we talking about a great climb to the top. There is no telling where she would be right now had she just kept doing what she was doing. That's all you had to do. You burnt the bridges at your home church. Then you join a church in Georgia. You asked your husband to join. That man went to church with you. Now you in the new church telling lies on your husband. Now, before you know it, you and your husband having counseling that he wasn't even aware of. Because you don't manufacture some lies to try to make yourself look good. And don't you remember that day in service, y'all was sitting there and midway through the service, I don't know what his position in the church was, but through hearsay, he approached your husband. Maybe he's in treasury, I don't know. But he approached your husband and talked to your husband about a bounced check that your husband did not write. And your husband told that man, well, you need to talk to her. And now all of a sudden the treasury guy, well, you the head of the household, it's your responsibility. And when your husband told that man what he told him in that church and he walked away, he never spoke to your husband again. Because you started steamrolling all those lies in this new church. Now you're up in there bouncing checks and you thinking I'm about to cover it because you thought I was going to be feeling under pressure because I'm sitting in the middle of the church in full service. You don't do that. You was taking those lies so deep that you was even praying on the pastor of the church to get them to believe your lies and your deceit. I could not believe that. Could not believe that. That was some of the most ridiculous stuff to ever come down the pike. You're an evil person. You are an evil person. You need help. You really, really seriously do. You need counseling. You really do. You need to have somebody to talk to. You need guidance. And the reason why that man know you haven't had that guidance because you're still calling 30 years later with the same old mess. It's like you get on a new medication or something and you have a phone conversation with this man like y'all still together, like, you're out of town. That lady, that's 30 years. What is going on in your head? That man has moved on. That man has a lot going on. And it's things like that, the reason why a lot of these men do not want to get involved with these serious relationships in their 50s and 60s because some of the stuff they went through. And yes, before y'all start, I know men have put women through stuff too. I'm well aware of that. But this is about a particular individual and her underhanded ways and the audacity of her to keep trying to contact that man when she know full well that she messed up. That man never laid a hand on her. That man never did anything wrong to her. No, even in arguments or disagreements or fights, he calmed down the situation. That's what that man did. But yet, you want to put the man down. You tried to put the man down in front of your new co-workers. You went up in there with this falseness on. I don't even know from the time when you left home with that man till you got to the housewarming party, who the hell you were. I mean, at what point did you transition? Because I'm very inquisitive. If a person can transition like that, I want to watch them transition. I want to see your whole face change. Just like when your eyes went from brown to black and all the evil came out of you. I want to see a full transition. And now when you think about it, you didn't fool nobody but yourself. Look at you now. Just look at you. Where you are right now in life, you put yourself in that situation. Yes, it can get better tomorrow. But make it about you. Don't make it about nobody else. Because that man does not want to play Captain Saver no more. He's not going to do it again for you. I know that for a fact. He ain't saving you again. No, he's not. So you need to get up off those knees, dust the dirt off of them, and get up and get back to work, find your job, find you something to do. Stop sitting there idle every day, playing sick and playing hurt. Get up and find you something to do. And make life easier for yourself. And the next time you get ready to call that man, you think about it, don't call him. Don't call him. Because every time you call him, even the few times he pick up the phone, he does it just because he want to get a good laugh. You know? So don't make a fool of yourself. And stop being mad at your friend because her and her man doing good, even though they met through you and your ex-husband. Stop being mad at her. You can't be mad at her because she handled her business and you couldn't. You have nothing to do with that. That's her life. Yours is in shambles because that's what you wanted. You know, that's what you asked for. And you got it. Just like you asked when you told that man, you prayed about it and you asked for a certain thing and it got delivered. And then you disrupted that. So it was taken away from you. Just like a car payment. If you don't pay it, they're going to come get it. You wasn't investing. You stopped investing in him. You walked. And remember how last time you saw that man and that little intimate situation happened and you called that man the next day and said, you won't believe this. We had such a good day yesterday. I thought we was getting back together and the sheriff just dropped off the divorce papers. Perfect timing, right? Because once again, you thought the cookies was going to save your day. No. There ain't no amount of cookies no woman can pull out her bag right now that'll save a day for me. Or any man that's been through that kind of shit. Excuse me, y'all. And before y'all ask, it's grape juice. Just got it in here. I've been sipping on it for the last 2.5 hours. So yes, you burnt that bridge. You really messed up. And, you know, there's going to be a lot of situations like this that's going to come up and come out because I'm at this point right now. I hate to say it, but I love to say it. I don't even care. You know, I don't care. What can happen? You know, you speak your truth. What happens? People listen. This is not made up. This is not no story time that I sat there and manufactured and copied off somebody else. This is real life stuff. That particular woman ruined her entire marriage over nothing. Over nothing. And has spent the last 30 years in regret. After even telling that man she can have anybody she wants. She had this guy. She had that guy. She started talking about what kind of careers they had. Okay, where are they now? You know? How do you feel knowing that you were just a trick to them? How do you feel knowing that? You only hurt yourself. And that man went on to do greater things. You know. And that man has been tested so much to where even to this day, that man still has some unsettling business to tend to, some unfinished business to tend to. But in time, it will come. It'll come in time. But he's not losing sleep over it because he knows what he put in. He knows what he invested. You know, stop thinking about the materialistic side of a person and think about how you transition with that person. Yeah, you could have rose to that occasion with anybody. Yes, you probably could have. But when you got with that guy, a lot of good things started happening for you and yours. And you screwed that up. So for you and others like you that are sitting there in that deep, dark, dingy room of regret that you're in, and you're trying to get back in, more than likely those guys not letting y'all back in. you know, unless he's in worse shape than you are, you know. But more than likely, you're not getting back in. So stop wasting your own time. Stop with your little postings and stop with putting your little post out there so people that know y'all, word gets back around to him, because he's not even affiliated with social media that way. You're sad. Go find yourself something to do. You know, take a trip. Find yourself something to do. And stop beating yourself up over that. Because you know, you're really making a fool of yourself. That's what you're really doing. And with that said, that's enough of that subject for tonight. Everybody have a great night.